I didn't.
Oh, you haven't tried it? No.
All right, at this time, we're going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. Please silence any cell phones or electronic devices that make noise at this time. And I will ask Ms. Manning, will you go ahead and call the roll?
Commissioner Penny,
Here.
Commissioner Curry, Commissioner Danio,
Here.
Commissioner Johnson,
Here?
Mayor Villa.
Here. And I'll ask you all to please rise to join us in an invocation and continue standing afterwards for the Pledge of Allegiance. Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you to pray. Dear God, we ask you to bless this meeting here tonight. We ask you to bless all who has attended. Dear Lord, please, we ask you to continue to lift up our police and our firefighters, all of our first responders. Let them know that we support them. Dear God, we pray all of this in your name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All righty. So tonight, we don't have much on our agenda, but we have one very, very important one. And it's obvious that it's important because we have only one other item on our agenda, and everyone must be here for the first one. So she's a very, very special person, and we're here to honor tonight and put into record here in Holly Hill Miss Bissy Holden. And we just want to thank you for everything that you've done for our city over the many, many years that you've served here. And we just really appreciate you. And I know that when I say that, I speak for the business community as well. So I'm going to go ahead and read this proclamation into the record. This is a proclamation by the mayor of the city of Holly Hill, Florida, honoring Bissy Holden's retirement. Whereas Bissy Holden began at Florida Healthcare Plans in September of 1987, and whereas Bissy built the communications and wellness departments from the ground up and helped pioneer corporate wellness programming in the area, and whereas in 2019, Bissy was awarded the Roger Penn Great Communicator Award presented by the Florida Public Relations Association of Volusia and Flagler. And whereas the award is based on a lifetime of accomplishments in effective communications, ethics, and professionalism in the field, and community service that improves the quality of life for others and positively affects the community. And whereas in 2019, Bissy received the Silver Medal recipient, AAF Daytona Beach, for men and women who have made outstanding contributions to advertising and who have been active in furthering the industry's standards, creative excellence, and responsibility in areas of social concern. And whereas Bissy is currently involved with Futures Foundation, Checkered Flag Committee, FPRA, Society for Human Resource Management, and her past involvements have been PACE, Literacy Council, Council on Aging, and Volusia Manufacturing Association. And whereas Bissy is an active member in multiple chambers, such as Holly Hill, Ormond Beach, Daytona Beach, and West Volusia. The Holly Hill Chamber of Commerce had the privilege of Bissy being a member for several years, and the Holly Hill Chamber would also like to show their appreciation for her support to the chamber and to the community. Now, therefore, I, Chris Villa, Mayor of the City of Holly Hill, Florida, and on behalf of the City Commission, do hereby recognize Miss Bissy Holden. So, thank you so much, and if you'd come forward so we could take a picture with you. The commission wants to come down. If you want to come right after. Yeah, wherever you. Here, let me stand on this side so that you can see you're right in the middle. Yeah.
Rose between the thorns.
Okay. And 3, 2, 1. Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you.
You too long.
Oh, nice. Are those flowers from the chamber, Sammy? Yes. Oh, that's super sweet. That's awesome. Congratulations again, Bissy. Thank you. And whoever came for just that, if you'd like to leave now, we won't hold it against you either, so. There you go. Go have a nice dinner somewhere. All right, so we'll continue on, and we're going to go ahead and recess the city commission meeting and convene as the CRA. So on our CRA agenda, we have item 1, 2021-R-41. Mr. Simpson?
Resolution number 2021, where does it say that on there?
R41.
Oh, four.
R.
R.
Yeah, R.
Yeah, 2021-R-41.
Okay. A resolution of the City of Holly Hill, Florida Community Redevelopment Agency authorizing the city manager to execute change order number 6 to the US 1 utility undergrounding primaries conversions with Carter Electric for an additional cost of $20,322.75 and an increase of 30 contract days, providing for severability and providing an effective date.
Thank you, Mr. Simpson. Mr. Forte?
I wanted to use this as an opportunity to update the commission on the status of the project. So we've invited David King from Mead Hunt to come up and just give you a quick rundown of where we are with the project, what's happening, expected timeframes, and then we'll go ahead and address this agenda item. But I figured it is a good opportunity to update everybody.
Great. Thank you very much. The floor is yours if you state your name and who you're with.
Good evening. David King with Mead Hunt, and appreciate being here again tonight. You might recall a little over a year ago we were here talking about the project, talking about what was left to be done with the project and what the time frame might be. So at that point in time, we were hoping to be wrapping things up at the end of this year. It looks like it might spill over a little bit into next year. I had mentioned last year at this time some things that might impact the schedule, and one of them was easement holdouts, and there was 2. The city has made great effort on that, got one in hand, and the other one's in process now. So we've got those nearly behind us, and we one of the other things that was a potential impact was resource changes, staff changes at utility companies. FPL had some turnover, but it didn't change that much, so they did a pretty good job in keeping things moving. But because of the easements, what we decided to do was to had FPL kind of split the project in 2. That way we could keep a portion of the project moving forward while the easements were being dealt with. So they kind of broke the project in half. It's not really in half, but at 5th Street. So things have moved forward. As of right now, AT&T and Charter, Spectrum, whoever you want to call them this today, they will be wrapping up with this additional work that's included in this change order for AT&T. They'll be wrapping up their work next month. You won't see the big impact. AT&T has actually removed most of their lines, but again, most of the lines that you see up in the air are FPL, so you don't see the major impact as of yet. FPL has in that south phase, for 5th Street South, they have installed all of their wires, all of the gear. It is hot. They are converting customers over. I should say just reconnected them because of course we converted them over, the city converted them over in the first, in what we called the secondaries phase, which was the services phase. So they'll be moving into that, switch the customers over, and then the street lights and the overhead is the next phase. And they've worked out with DOT, FPL has worked out with DOT to do that in blocks at a time, if you will. So that way we don't have a whole side of the street or a whole section of the city going dark at once as they do the conversion. So you'll finally see some of that activity. You'll see their poles come down, the new street light poles going in, that overhead coming down. That's going to happen fairly quickly for up to 5th Street. The second section, let's call it, with FPL, they are in the process now of accepting that. A couple of the items that were on the change order tonight for Carter was to clean up a few items that have really transpired since we've installed it, the equipment originally. So FPL will be able to accept that second section from 5th to the north end of the project with the easement property being acquired on 8th Street, on the northwest corner of 8th Street. That'll allow them to proceed forward. Right now, we're guesstimating it'll go into January, may spill over in February, but by then it will be some cleanup items. So most of the if, you know, it'd be a great Christmas present to see all those lines come down. I'm sure I would be happy to wrap that, put a bow on that for y'all. So, cost-wise, it's really been static, except for the change order tonight. So there's been a few cleanup items that we're dealing with, and that's in that change order. We have kept Carter online or under contract for these things, and they've been doing a great job and jumping on things when they need to. So, so that's the basic status of the project. So you might have some questions.
Yes, I saw in the packet this change order, we're giving an extra month to complete it. So is that pushing that original time frame that you gave us out another month, or is it just for this?
This is the contract with Carter, and we're pushing out to the end of August. That's just to give them some time to do the work, and then also for the utility companies to accept the work that's in here. End of August should be more than plenty. Everybody's still moving forward as this is happening, all the other utility
Okay.
companies.
Thank you. And there's another question. Is the 8th Street property, is that still holding us up, or are we just moving forward? I know
Scott
what
could
we're
probably
doing.
give you a
but-
quick update on that as well.
Okay.
We went through, prior to doing eminent domain, there's a pre-suit negotiation the law requires you to go through. Joe, we sent the information, Joe communicated with the owner, thought that we came to a resolution, and I think it was discussed here, and the person would not sign the easement. So we've proceeded with, we'll actually be filing tomorrow, the eminent domain action. So that's the plan. We thought that he was going to come back accept it, because I think the offer was above what the appraised value was. Would have been a very reasonable move for him to do, but for whatever reason, he's not willing to do that. So, and we found that we had a couple city liens on the property, old code enforcement liens, so we went ahead and re-recorded those, so we had valid liens on the property that will then entitle the city to reimbursement from the funds. I mean, if we're going to go through the process, then we might as well go through the details of the process. So we'll see how it ends up, but once we file this, the money that gets paid into the court registry, we're taking the property for that price, and there can be, down the road, there can be a hearing to see if that price is correct, but it's significantly less than what we offered him.
What I was going to ask Scott, is he aware of all this new stuff that you're getting ready to do to change his mind, or
No, he's been aware of the process and what's been happening, and
re-recording and all this stuff?
well, I just sent him an email tonight to tell him that tomorrow it's going to get recorded.
Yeah.
Can he still,
If he calls me before Scott files it, if not, I can't wait on this guy anymore. It's been years.
right,
Right, and that was my point, is that this is not holding us up anymore.
No.
Is that
Yeah,
correct?
We're proceeding forward. This just allows us to proceed forward a little more legally.
Okay. Thank you.
Well said.
Yeah, the engineer's understanding of how that works is you get the property in hand first, and then you work out the details later.
Right.
So that allows us to move forward, and FBL understands that.
Once we file the eminent domain, in essence, we have possession of the easement.
Okay.
And then we go through the court system to then settle on a financial number.
Yeah, and it's important.
It
to-
takes it's not immediate, but
Little
it's
bit.
pretty quick.
And what's important to note too, for anyone listening, is that it's not that we're taking a property, it's an easement
easement.
that should
It's
have
an
already.
easement that has no impact on the developability of his property.
Correct. Vice Mayor, you had something?
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, AT&T and Charter are done?
They will be done next month. A bit of work that's included in this change order is for AT&T, so they're waiting on that work to be done so they can wrap up. Charter's been doing their stuff. They said they could be done this month, but I'm saying August just to give them a little leeway.
It just seems ironic that in the beginning of the process, FP&L said they'd be off first, and it'd be years before AT&T and Charter were off their poles, but now they're first off the poles.
Well, and
they're not.
now, though, there's a state law that FP&L can actually take it down and then bill AT&T or Spectrum, right? Is that why they're starting to get them off
Yeah, 'cause
sooner?
what happens in a lot of places where they do some hardening and stuff like that, and they replace poles, and you see the two poles right next to each other, it's because the communication folks haven't gotten off FPL's pole, so they can pull their old pole. All that, what you were mentioning, it came out of that, because they even got to the point where they were putting a placard on there saying, if you want this pole removed, call AT&T or, Spectrum type of thing. But And I think the statement that they made is because of that, a lot of times they are in advance and they're waiting for those other communication companies. But I can tell you that in these undergrounding efforts, since the communication cables are lower, if you will, and then they usually strip from the bottom up, it usually happens this way. So FPL said what they said, but this is the normal pace and the normal order of things.
So realistically, this time next year, we should be done.
I definitely hope before this time next year. If I'm here it's the same time next year, I will not be. You won't be happy, and I will extremely not be happy being here. So.
Any other questions? All right, thank you very much for that update. We appreciate that. All right.
So this agenda item is for a change order not to exceed $20,320.75.
Yes, sir. All right, and at this time, we'll open this up to the public. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on this item tonight? Seeing none, I'll close public participation, and I'll entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Motion moved by Vice Mayor Penny, second by Mr. Johnson, correct?
Yes.
All right. Is there any discussion needed? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Now moving to, now we'll adjourn as the CRA and we'll reconvene as the City Commission meeting. And now we'll go to public comments. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak to the commission about anything not on our regular agenda tonight? Yes, sir, Mr. Blaze.
Ladies and gentlemen,
And Gillis, let me stop you. Just, we know who you are, but name and address for the record.
okay.
Thank
I
you.
live at 710 Magnolia in Holly Hill. I'm glad this floor was rejuvenated. This was the original floor by the door coming up here. This wood came from Wisconsin. The longer strips of wood, it's all embedded. It's a WPA project with identification so nobody could steal it or use it. I will turn this over to our
you get
museum
that,
across
Gilles?
the street.
It's theft. We'll charge an affidavit.
And unless you all want to have it public displayed here, but it's amazing over the last 30 years how much Holly Hill has preserved some of its past, especially the WPA project. So, Mayor, I want you to touch this, because I stepped on it and quite a few people did.
Yeah, that's nice.
And you can see
That
how
is
they
thick.
They tapped it to the other floor and all that.
It's
There were
even-
square head nails.
I was gonna say square nails, yeah. That's something else. That's really,
Passed on to the others.
yeah. You wanna feel that? Thick. They don't make flooring like this anymore.
Well, I had a lot more, but when I was in the hospital last year, my sister came by and says, got to get rid of all this stuff. Well, I have a problem, because I grew up, family was in construction. We recycled everything, including nails.
Yeah, you don't need all
I
that.
want y'all to be interested in this, and I think the proper place, we do have a museum across the street,
Yeah.
and I also donated some wood from the old school that went on over there.
That's awesome.
And another thing, this, I believe, is the oldest basketball floor in the state of Florida, because the life expectancy of a basketball floor was 20 years, but they were built close to the ground. This one here was on the second floor, so it didn't have to be replaced at the end of 20 years.
Wow.
So our forefathers invested wisely in the city of Holly Hill.
That's awesome. Thank you for that bit of history. We
Thank
appreciate it, Commissioner. Yep. All right, is there anyone else in the audience? Yes, sir, Mr. Legary.
What's the price of wood? I'll put that in the safe.
They'll turn it back on.
You know the drill. Name and address.
Jim Legary, 342 Burley. I've been meaning to call you, Joe. Call me what? Call you Joe.
It's been called worse.
Every day the trash truck comes by my house, I scream and I say, I'm going to call Forte. Those machines couldn't possibly be any louder or screechier. And if you could speak to whoever it is that's doing those,
You mean like when they're going to, when they're crushing it?
yeah, when they're, right.
We have a guy that I can have take a look at it.
It's amazing. And I have great empathy for the poor people that have to work on the damn truck. The other thing, I would like to inquire if we've figured out what we're going to do with this big annuity that's coming from the government or not coming from the government or whatever. Is there anything we can do to improve the general population?
Well, we briefly spoke about that in our workshop before.
I figured.
And probably going to come back up again at the end of the meeting as well.
Excellent. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Legary. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak to the commission about anything not on our regular agenda tonight? All right, seeing none, we'll close public comments, and we'll move to number 7, approval of the minutes. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes from June 22nd, 2021, regular city commission meeting?
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion for approval from Commissioner Johnson and a second from Commissioner Danio. Would anybody in the audience like to speak on this item? Seeing none, I'll close public participation. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the motion carries unanimously. We have nothing on our consent agenda tonight, so we'll move to number 9 on our regular agenda, Resolution 2021-R-42. Mr. Simpson.
Resolution number 2021-R-42 by title only for first and only reading. A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Holly Hill, Florida, authorizing the city manager to execute change order number 6 to the US 1 utility undergrounding primaries conversions with Carter Electric for an additional cost of $20,322.75 and of 30 contract days, providing for severability and providing for an effective date.
Thank you, Mr. Simpson. Mr. Forte, do you have anything to add?
Nothing more than was presented at the CRA agenda item.
All right, thank you very much. Any further questions from the commission on this? All right, we'll open this up to the public. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on this item tonight? Seeing none, we'll close public participation, and I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion to approve from Commissioner Danio, a second from Commissioner Johnson. Any discussion needed? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the motion carries unanimously. Now moving to our communications. Mr. Forte, do you?
I have a question for you that Brian Walker came to me this afternoon and asked if I'd bring up to you, although I didn't get the permit request. The Daytona Board of Realtors is planning a fundraising activity for Officer Jason Rayner from Daytona Beach. It's coming up, I think, before our next commission meeting, and typically there would be a permit review fee. And I'd like to go ahead and waive that fee, but I don't have a permit in hand, and I think it'd be the right thing to do just to show our additional support for Officer Rayner.
Need a motion?
I would prefer, yeah.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion to waive the permit fee for the upcoming
Board of Realtors special event for
special
Jason
event
Rayner.
here in Holly Hill. We'll open this up to the public now. We have a motion and a second for approval. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on this? Seeing none, I'll close public participation. And Joe, just for the record, how much usually is a permit?
I don't know, Mayor, I don't remember off the top of my head. It's
It's not
nominal, but
much.
still it's
Yeah,
something.
very not, yeah. Okay, but yeah, it's the right thing to do. So without any other discussion, we'll go ahead and take a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. All right, Mr. Forte,
That's all that I have for tonight, thanks.
did you want to bring up to Vice Mayor Penny's point, the bathrooms, pavilion money?
Yeah.
80?
So Stella reminded me that in this current year's budget, we had budgeted $80,000 to refurbish some of the pavilions in the park, and when we had gone over, we realized the pavilions really don't need that level of repair. So with that $80,000, we can potentially look to fix up some of those bathrooms with whatever we can with that amount of money. And there's, like I said, we already looked at a company that does that resealing and that smooth coating on everything, and, you know, we'll give it a shot.
What was wrong with that? Why didn't we want to move forward with that?
Expense.
Was it just expensive? Okay.
Yeah, but if we've got that money that's not going to be used, then we can reallocate it for refurbishing those restrooms, at least as many as we can.
Well, and when we look at capital projects this year as well, because I would like to see those pavilions and specifically those picnic tables to be brought up a level. I do think that they need to be worked on, so maybe even we could do a double whammy. So, and maybe we don't need all 80,000 to spruce up the pavilions, and some of that can be allocated over towards the bathrooms. So, Ms. Penny, it was your idea. You brought up the bathrooms. Do you want to comment on it?
No, I think it's great. I mean, it's got rollover money this year, but I just don't want to just stop at the 80 and do 2 bathrooms if there's 6 bathrooms that need attention. So it makes sense, economy of scales, to get the contractor here and do them all at one time.
Yeah, but we'll see if we'll see what it costs, and based on that cost, we can get some started this budget year, and then
Right.
if we have to finish it next budget year, was close enough that it would be.
Yeah, I'd love for staff to take a look at that and come up with some options. Is there any objection to that? All right, yeah, you have consensus on that, Mr. Forte. All right, and that's it?
Yeah, that's it. I did want to mention if you saw the new water fountains that are around City Hall, the bottle fillers, so that's.
I did down below, are they up here?
I was going to ask you how long they've been up there, because it only says we saved 23 bottles, and I was like, how long has this thing been here?
Well, on Friday I was here and they weren't,
I filled my water up 4
it
times
wasn't here
already.
Friday, so it must have been put in yesterday?
Yesterday.
Okay,
But it's down to the police department, it's over Public Works. There's 8 of the 9 water fountains that we upgraded have a bottle filler to it. And then some of the units that we have that are good, we're going to relocate to some of the parks that have bad water.
well, I'll tell you what, you were down in the police department with me when I filled up mine. And
yeah, that's right.
anybody who knows me, you know how much water I go through constantly.
I've seen you trying to pour it in.
This whole thing during a meeting is gone, but
There's a mess down here in case.
I'll tell you, there's a filter in it, and before the water, it just, it tasted like it tasted, and now it filters through. It is good. It is good. So I'll be drinking a lot of it.
There's no
So,
filter in the wall.
well, it's all in my mind.
It's
It's
up here.
in my mind. It's shiny and new. All right, Mr. Simpson, do you have anything?
Just to let you know, I will not be at the next meeting. I'll be out of town.
Okay. Thank you.
Lobster season.
Pretty much same time every
Mrs. Manning, do you have anything for us?
Who's
All
going
right.
here? Nate?
I have a couple things.
No one's here.
So first is yesterday at the elected officials roundtable, Joe and I attended that, and the important thing that we discussed, as Mr. Legary brought up, was the coronavirus local fiscal recovery funds through the American Rescue Plan Act. And as we all know, we're getting a substantial amount of money from the federal government, which, although we do have many projects and we would be grateful to be able to use that money, I hate that the federal government has been handing out money in that way, in that respect. But nonetheless, we went over several uses, and there's been a lot of question over what kind of categories we can and cannot use. And one thing that I just found really interesting was that the county breaks it down into 4 categories, A, B, C, D. And A, you're talking about the response to COVID-19 or its negative economic impacts of what you can spend it on. Then in B, it's premium pay for frontline government workers that were that we could spend that money on because of COVID, and you have to link it to COVID. And then we go to revenue loss, and that has to be linked. And then you go to water and sewer and broadband infrastructure. And the further you get away actually from COVID, the less you actually have to prove in your audit that really it was because of COVID-19. And I just found that really, really odd. Nonetheless, we know, and we spoke earlier, Mr. Legary, if you didn't hear our workshop earlier, we have a lot of needs that are very, very expensive when you look at water pipes and sewer pipes and stormwater. And those are very hard projects because not only are they expensive, but they're not flashy, they're hard to fund. And so this, I think that a big part of what we need to look at is redoing some of those and getting all of our infrastructure in the right place, because you said it best earlier that these aren't pretty projects and people really won't see the big impact. But if it was the opposite way around, and like I got a phone call this weekend with a man, and the sewer had backed up into his house and he had an inch of standing water in his bathroom, that's the time where you go, wow, this isn't working. And that's when you start caring about the guts of the city, when things start going to bad. So, we're not hashing it out now, and I know staff has been working. I know, Mrs. Gurney, you've been working really hard on this. There hasn't been a lot of guidance. I know they put out the 400-page, guide that not many people have been able to read through yet, but so I appreciate that. We're not going to hash out where we're going to spend it. And we're also talking with counties. We want to be in line with a lot of the other cities. We don't want certain programs to happen and us be left out of those as well. And the other thing is we're not in a rush with this money, because I think we have till 2025, is it, to spend is it 20?
Yeah, at the end of 2024.
2024? Okay.
To encumber it.
To encumber it, okay.
Yeah. So you
not
can
to
encumber it
spend
by then, but not finish a project till after.
Okay. But the other one that I really wanted to bring up tonight was, so I think that that's a no-brainer. It's tough for us to be able to fund those types of infrastructure, and we can get our infrastructure in a really, really good place. We're an older city, and we really need to do that. But the category that I also wanted to take a look at as well and let staff know is the premium pay. And I spoke with Mr. Forte about this. I wanted to take a look into premium pay for our frontline responders there. There's a way to be able to use that as well, because they were so critical and they were responding to calls, not knowing what the virus was or its impact, and still had to answer the phone when 911 was called and go down there and put their life and their family's health potentially at risk. And I want them to know that we care, that they did that, and that we have their back. So that's something I just want staff to keep in mind as we continue these talks with the rest of the county and figure out where this money's going to go. So if anyone has any comments, you can talk about that. Also, too, I did bring this. This is the actual thing that we were presented from the county. I don't know if you guys want me to make copies of it, if you want to read through it or not, but
I'll scan it and email it out.
okay. Other than that, was pretty much it from the elected officials roundtable. And then another thing I wanted to talk about was the ECHO board. The ECHO board met today with the county council, and they're talking about different projects. I've spoken to 4 of our county council members prior to this meeting, because they were talking about changes in ECHO. And as you all know, we're going to go out to try to get an ECHO grant for the expansion of Pictona again. And the problem has been, as you all know, is that the ECHO board has not opened up for us to actually ask them so that we could proceed on actually starting in. So, and we talked about that at a previous meeting. But so Joe wants to move forward with the project and then ask afterwards, hey, can we get this funded through ECHO? And so they had a talk today, and I watched live right before the meeting. It was about 4 o'clock, and it seemed like everybody was really high on the project, number one. Number two, that they were fine with giving us an exception because of our past performance with the ECHO Fund grant and what it means to the county. And as the county manager actually stated, that it's really the county's fault of why we can't apply right now to ask to notice proceed. So I think that it looks really, really good. And from talking to 4 of the members, it seems like we're in a good potential to be able to get that ECHO grant. So that's big time news, because they could have just said, no, we're not bending any of the rules or anything. We're not wrong. You're wrong. And that would have been really, really tough. So I wanted to just give that update. And lastly, I just wanted to say thank you and welcome to Interim Police Chief Jeff Miller. Thank you for stepping up, and we all have the highest of hopes for you, and we got your back too. So with that, we'll go to Vice Mayor Penny tonight.
As Gillis stole my thunder, the floor looks great. Thanks for city staff making the last minute change to put the seal there. Thinks it looks really good. Hey, Joe, I was driving around the city today and I noticed something, but I didn't pay attention to where it was, so I think I know where it is. What do you call the directional things at the intersection? Are those mast arms or mast heads?
Mast arms?
I know when you had left us, we had installed a couple on Nova Road.
Right.
And they were painted or powder coated or something. And then when you came back, you said, don't ever do that again, because now we got to maintain them. And we put the galvanized one in. I think it's like 13th Street in the 1600 block of Nova. There's one that looks like a Dalmatian. It's, I don't know if it's black turning gray or gray turning black, but I was hoping Antoine would still be here, but
I'll find out tomorrow and see what it is.
I think that's where it was. I noticed it, but I didn't take enough mental picture, but I think it's on Nova Road around 13th Street, so.
Maybe some Merle.
Yeah, it just, I don't know if we've put aluminum colored spray paint on it to cover it, or
No,
if
it'll
it's
just-
fading, or if we just
anything
wait
you
long
do-
enough, all the black will be gone. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's got to be maintained. You know, in Seminole County, we had a mast arm program that we'd have to go out and blast them and repaint them, and that's why I said, don't do it here. We're too close to the water, and it just becomes a maintenance nightmare.
Yeah, it's one of those things you don't see it till you see it, and I saw it, but now I can't remember where it was.
I'm glad my comment from 7 years ago came true.
No, I'm gonna give you credit for that, because it'll probably cost us thousands of dollars to, maybe we can strip it off. Maybe it's galvanized underneath, I don't know. So, that was my only observation.
All right. Anything
That's
else?
it.
All right.
I don't have time to drive around and look at the
Oh, the cam?
streetlights.
You don't got the cushy
I
insurance
was getting
job?
parts for my boat.
One of us has a real job and works for a living.
He doesn't have enough time for a boat either.
I have nothing to do. Congratulations, Bissy. I thought that was great. She actually started a few months, for healthcare and me. We've been riding this out together for a long time, so she's helped me a few times in the past, and I was happy to see her get recognized. That was good. But I have nothing to say.
All right. Commissioner Johnson? And
tell you
can you
about
sit forward
galvanizing is a
into the mic?
wonderful thing.
Commissioner Johnson, can you sit forward into there?
Galvanize is a wonderful thing if you can do galvanize, and it doesn't cost a fortune over paint. It's by far the best. We learned the hard way up in Flagler, because that is, I firmly believe that Flagler is the rust capital of the whole entire world.
It's the what?
Russ,
Rust capital of the whole entire world. Every single thing you have in Flagler, if you have it aimed towards the ocean, that side's gonna completely rust.
Wow.
It's worse of anywhere I've ever seen anywhere in Florida. So we finally had to galvanize everything. Every boom on every truck, everything has to be galvanized now. You can't do it in painting. It just don't last at all, so it is a good thing. But you're right about the galvanized. Stainless is better, but stainless costs too much, by far stainless. That's why the boat people use stainless. But I really, really am proud of the floor. I don't like, I just, many years ago, I decided I didn't like carpet in Florida. I think carpet is really it attracts dirt, moisture, everything and all, and look at the floor. It's so much easier to maintain than trying to keep a carpet up. So kudos to whoever decided to do all this floor like this. And the only other thing I have is, we have an emergency meeting coming up for the TPO next week, and we kind of lost our director there, so we don't know what's going to happen at the emergency meeting coming up, but I know we're scheduled for it for 9 o'clock next Friday at the emergency meeting. And that's all I have for the.
Next Friday is in 3 days from now, or
No, next Friday.
week from.
It's 23rd.
Okay.